everybody, and welcome back to another week of Circle of Hopes
Kids time!
How are you doing? Did you have a good week? We had a pretty fun week because we got some new pet fish. Well, why don't we take a look to see what you guys have been up to?
Hit it!
Thank you so much for sending those in. It's really a pleasure to be able to see you and think about what you're doing. Well, we've spent some time learning about how Jesus helps us in our storms, our real storms or our emotional storms, just when we're sad and angry, hard stuff. Well, there's something else about Jesus that I wanted to tell you. Did you know that he especially loves kids? Mm-hmm. I know that because there's a whole Bible story about it, and he even talks about kids sometimes. So I want to share one with you from a picture book Bible that we have. I'm just going to read parts of it. And it starts with, see this picture here? These are God's friends, and they're saying, you need to go away. Jesus doesn't have time for you. He's very, very, very busy. But Jesus actually said something different. He said, hey, don't ever send them away. Bring those little ones to me. Chris, please put that down. And then it asks us to imagine, what if you were there when Jesus is saying, come on kids, you can come with me? Do you think you'd have to sit quietly, dress up really fancy, make sure you don't wiggle or make weird noises?
No way.
Well, it says here, these children just ran up to Jesus and started playing. It says children loved Jesus, and they knew they didn't need to do anything special for Jesus to love them. All they needed to do was to run into his arms And so that's just what they did. After all the laughing and games, Jesus turned to his helpers. Remember these kind of grumpy people saying, "No, don't come to Jesus." He said something to them. He said, "No matter how big you grow, never grow up so much that you lose your child's heart, which is full of trust in God. Be like these children. They are most important in my kingdom." Well, how about that? Jesus loved children, and he says they're so important in his kingdom. That's really cool. Who do you love to hug and to play with? I guess being in the pandemic kind of changes who we get to hug. Mm-hmm. Do you ever run into somebody's arms? Well, why don't you try it right now? Give someone a big hug. And let's do something else. Let's imagine that we're hugging Jesus. That'd be kind of interesting. Maybe even close our eyes and think about it. What would it have been like to be able to run to Jesus and hug him? Maybe we can even use that imagination when we pray. We can picture what it might be like to have Jesus being there, wanting to play with us and hug us, hear our stories. He could tell us stories. Maybe you already do that when you pray. I'd be curious to find out what it's like to use your imagination, that Jesus is with you, giving you a big hug. This has been fun to talk about together, and we have another fun thing. Here's a movement game that someone in our church family put together for you.
Hi kids, I'm Miss Anita, and I wanted to talk to you about being brave with Jesus today. When I think about how kids know more about Jesus than adults, I think that's because you have this imagination, and I want to use that today and do some yoga poses and some silly yoga faces. So when you're scared, or when you have had a nightmare, or when you get in a fight with your friend or your brother or your sister, maybe you could do this and say to yourself, "Oh my goodness, Jesus must hold me close." Can you go right now to your parent or to your sibling and put your hands on their face and look them in the eye and say, "Jesus holds you like this"? That's what I imagine. I think that was probably pretty awesome. I also wanted to talk about how when there's a storm outside and you look at the trees and they're rooted and they're really, really deep into the ground because they're secure, and then the storm can actually blow the trees, the wind, it looks wild and it looks like they could break, but they almost never do. So just like those trees, you could pretend by putting your roots down and make a tree posture. So you want to do this right now with me? You can take this foot and make a branch, or you could keep it closer to the ground. You don't have to take your toes off the ground. You can, I'm going to show you that foot, but it doesn't want to do it. But that foot can, those toes can stay way, way down. Then grow your branches and look up and bring a big smile to your face. And maybe your parent wants to do that with you. And you look at each other and you tell each other, "What kind of tree are you?" "I'm a maple and my leaves are turning red in autumn." And now you can be a mountain. So strong. Sometimes we call Jesus the Lion of Judah. Look at your mom or dad or sibling and say, "Rah! I have a Jesus lion who lives in here, who does this with me." I hope that the next time you wonder where Jesus is, you remember you're rooted like a tree. You're strong and steady like a mountain. And you can go over to somebody and love them and touch their face and just be your sweet self. And that's bringing Jesus to them.
Wasn't Isn't that cool? We got to use our imagination again to imagine Jesus holding us, helping us be strong. Super fun. Thank you for doing that with us. Well, I can't wait to be together again next week. And I hope you have some opportunities to use your imagination. And maybe you can tell someone about what it was like. We'd love to hear it. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.